When a duel is announced between the sons of Duke Vert to determine who will become the next successor and who will be a loser for life, no one believes in our boy. Because before this, he lost every single training duel and was the disgrace of the family. Even Cyan's personal maid suggests that he should just surrender. There's just no way he can win against a genius like Kranz. But our boy simply grips his rapier and locks in. The Duke announces the start of the duel, and Kranz rushes forward, completely sure he'll end it quickly. But to Cyan, his movements are as slow as a snail's. He casually steps aside, making Kranz miss miserably in front of everyone. Furious, Kranz attacks again, but this time Cyan humiliates him even more by knocking the sword out of his hands. Then he strikes his leg so painfully that the loser falls to the ground and starts crying. Now even the Duke is shocked. At this point, Cyan could simply place his sword at his opponent's throat and end the duel, but that won't be enough. In his past life, this bastard Kranz bullied our boy just for fun. So now Cyan makes sure Kranz learns who's the boss here and beats him to a pulp. So who is Cyan? He used to be the strongest assassin, carrying out countless missions to help his brother become emperor. But in the end, his brother grew afraid of his power and killed Cyan with the help of an entire army and a powerful mage. As he lay dying, our guy couldn't believe what a foolish life he had led serving that bastard. Then, in the next moment, he woke up as a child. Shocked, he saw his personal maid pushing him to go train instead of sleeping all day. And now that he's back in the past, he won't serve anyone except himself. Once the duel ends, he is summoned to meet with the Duke. A high-ranking knight escorts him through the halls toward the chamber. Just before they arrive, he spots Margaret stepping out of the office. A crooked grin tugs at his lips. She's clearly just finished ranting about her precious son. He throws a casual jab, asking if Kranz is holding up all right. Her expression twists with fury, and she snaps, demanding how he dares act concerned after what he did out there. He brushes past her like she's air, muttering that that's how duels work, but she's not about to let that go. Loud enough for anyone nearby to hear, she spits that this is exactly why illegitimate brats like him shouldn't be treated like real heirs. Then she takes it further, insulting his mother and claiming he should be groveling in alleyways for scraps. She hisses that he had no business fighting at all. The words sink in and his jaw tightens. Her venom finally hits a nerve. His anger simmers, sharp and silent. He briefly considers killing her but settles on a more satisfying plan to make her suffer instead. He, of all people, knows exactly how to break her slowly and deliberately. Cyan informs her he'll be enrolling in the academy with Kranz. She squints, unsure what he's getting at. So he spells it out, his tone sharp and deliberate. She wouldn't want her son graduating without his limbs intact. Her focus should be on him now. She steps forward, but the knight blocks her way and says the meeting with the Duke is urgent. They don't have time to waste. He gives her one last smirk before turning toward the Duke's chambers. He walks into the office and offers a formal greeting. Memories flicker, his father's face. And it's been 15 years since they last met in person. The man, Duke Willius Vert, the mighty feudal lord of Velius, defined by many titles, the continent's shield, the hero who held back the demon onslaught for years with sheer magical might. He carried that burden to his last breath during the demon raid. All he ever wanted was peace across the continent. But Cyan sees him differently. A man who chose to live his entire life as a servant of duty, when he had the freedom not to, is nothing but a fool. The Duke skips past greetings and gets straight to business, telling him that the moment Kranz charged, he locked onto the sword's trajectory and dodged. Then he asks how long he's known how to wield a blade like that. Our protagonist replies that he trained on his own every night. The Duke clearly doubts him and says he's never shown the slightest interest in swordsmanship, so why hide such skill? He answers that he didn't want to attract attention. The man finds it odd that he didn't hold back against Kranz and questions whether that level of aggression was really necessary. Cyan says he needed to prove something, that he's better than Kranz, despite their shared bloodline. The Duke breaks into a wide grin, intrigued and excited by what he just heard. He's gone beyond expectations. He tells him he could grow into a powerful and dependable ally for Ashel one day. Cyan freezes at the sound of that name. The idea of supporting someone like Ashel, now that he knows who he truly is absurd. Just like always, the Duke's obsession with Ashel hasn't changed. He grabs his son's hands and says he can ask for anything he wants as a reward. It'll be granted. He takes this chance as the opening shot to destroy everything Ashel's built and asks to be sent to the battlefront. Back in his room, the maid nearly jumps out of her skin when she hears what he's requested. She calls him insane for wanting to go to a place swarming with wicked creatures and demonic monsters. Velius, the western territory of the Ushif Empire, is the only region that qualifies as the true battlefront, and even Lamia Valley is considered the front line. It's a brutal war zone that's been locked in a fight against demons for centuries. Because of that, his father gives him one condition. He has 1 month to become strong enough to be worthy of entering Lamia Valley. He has no clue how much stronger he needs to be to meet that standard, but he knows he has to raise his physical capabilities as high as possible in the meantime. He's still weaker than most kids his age. What he does have is combat intuition carried over from his past life and a faint trace of magic within himself. If he can build up his body, he might actually put it to use. So the training starts now. Alice storms into the room calling his name with fire in her voice. She's already heard the news about his plan to head to the battlefront. She lays into him, accusing him of letting his win against Crans get to his head. Then she tells him to meet her on the rooftop. She wants to test him, and if he can hold his own against her for 3 minutes, she won't stop him from going. He tries to talk her down, saying there's no reason for them to fight over this, but she shuts him down cold and asks if he's just chasing after her family's legacy. That's when it clicks. He gets why she's so aggressive. But he doesn't give a damn about her family name. His duel with Crans wasn't even a full day ago, so his body is still wrecked. But she doesn't hold back. She comes at him hard with her broadsword. He reacts just in time, managing to block her strike. She pulls back, taken aback that he defended himself. A 10-year-old with a rapier just deflected her greatsword. She shrugs it off as pure luck and unleashes a flurry of fast attacks. He barely holds them off and takes some hits, but he sees a weak spot in her guard and turns the tables. He parries, slips inside her defense and counters, his blade aiming for her neck. She doesn't have time to dodge the counter, but Cyan twists his blade at the last second, giving her a window to escape. If he hadn't done that, she would have dropped dead on the spot. The Mist's sword technique wasn't built for mercy. Most of its fog-based forms are made for killing, which makes it hard to hold back, especially when his physical strength is still lacking. But now he's starting to burn out. To make up for what his body can't handle, he's been forcing mana through his sword, and he's just about hit the wall. He catches her mid-chant, blending earth and wind into her blade, and shifts into stance. The determination on her face says she's going all in, so he braces for impact, knowing damn well that trying to block that hit could send him flying out of the castle. He charges, hoping pure adrenaline and blind faith will unlock his magic mid-run. But before their blades connect, the Knight Ulkin drops in and shuts the whole thing down, blocking them both. He scolds her for going too far on someone younger. Reality hits fast. She blinks, then suddenly pulls him into a hug, trembling and apologizing for snapping. She just wanted to stop him from throwing himself into the battlefield. He gets it. He knows how she is, how she gives everything she has to everything. His sister, the prodigy who scored top marks across every subject at the Royal Academy, her looks alone had people calling her a child blessed by the gods. She'd trained with the sword since she could walk. She once matched Ashel blow for blow in their fight for the title of Continent's Guardian, but then it all collapsed. She joined the Knights of Light and got killed. He clutches her tight and swears to himself. This time, he'll protect her. In the middle of their moment, she turns to Ulkin and narrows her eyes. Wasn't he the Duke's personal knight? What's he doing here if the Duke already left for war? The knight says he's just acting under orders, to guard Cyan while the Duke's away. It's supposed to be a quiet mission. No one's meant to know. The younger man had already sensed him back in the Duke's office, but still finds it odd that his father wanted this whole thing kept under wraps. Mid-thought, fatigue hits like a truck and he knocks out in her arms. She smiles softly, thinking to herself, he really is still just a kid. The next morning, she heads back to the academy. He gets to work training his body. He can barely crank out 10 push-ups, still weak, and the need to grow stronger is getting louder every day. For the past 2 weeks, he's been grinding through strength training. No results. He misses the strength he used to have. He needs anything that works. While he's sinking into that pit, the maid walks in with a message. A package from his sister has arrived. Inside is a bottle of Hellhound blood, something he'd asked her for, a rare material from Lamea Valley, the blood of a demonic beast, notorious for its horrible stench and burning taste. People say it's poisonous, but from experience he knows better. It gives a permanent boost to mana and physical power. The maid looks horrified and asks if he's really about to drink that stuff. He shrugs and tells her that after surviving her cooking, this is basically tea, then downs the whole thing in one go. The heat and rush of power spread through his system. Then he says he's heading out for a walk. He goes to a spot he remembers clearly from his past life. He's been waiting for 2 weeks to do this, specifically for a moment when Yulkin isn't around to report back. Years ago, Ashel received a divine revelation from Lumendel, the god of light. It spoke of an ancient temple hidden in the mountains. He hadn't believed it then, but the place turned out to be real, a zone where mana gathers in heavy concentration. In this timeline, though, that prophecy hasn't happened yet. He's the only one who knows it exists. He crouches, feeling along the earth, searching for the exact spot where the mana thickens. Then he channels his magic, and the entrance to the temple begins to open. He steps inside the temple and instantly realizes something's off. It doesn't look quite the same as it did before. This place, once a shrine devoted to the god of light Lumendel, had its history erased during the demon god war that wiped everything clean 3 centuries ago. He moves deeper into the ruins, eyes locking onto a glow pulsing from a sword, the temple's core. Back in 999, BF, before Foundation, humanity had finally driven the Demon King's forces out of Velius. The demons had power far beyond human capabilities, but humans found salvation in ancient relics called the God's Weaponry, artifacts that turned the tide. Among them was Duran Dark, a sacred blade personally blessed by Lumendel. This sword was credited as the key that let humanity win the war, and it will also be the weapon that ends his life someday. When it's in the hands of Vert Ashel, he places a hand on it. As expected, it doesn't react. He walks away, not even surprised. There's an old legend. After stepping beyond the blade's glow, a strange shadow appears. It looks like the sword's cast at first glance, but it's not a shadow. Where there's light, darkness follows. And this darkness is actually a concealed passage, hidden beyond the altar, leading to a secret chamber. He follows it in and finds a sword resting dead center in the room. His eyes soften. It's like reuniting with an old friend, the same blade from his past life. He steps forward, grips the handle, and speaks its name, Karam. The sword submits instantly. He gives it a few swings, but the magic that once pulsed through it isn't responding. It must still be deep in hibernation. Even so, the rush of finding it again fills him with something close to joy. Then, out of nowhere, a voice echoes through the chamber, asking if he really feels no fear, whether he understands what it means to awaken the demon sealed in that sword. She says it's too late to back out now and lunges, aiming to take his body. But he grabs her by the throat before she can get close. He says she's acting way too reckless and wasn't like this before. The demon looks shaken. How can a kid touch her? He calmly reminds her that the blade belongs to him. She tries to push back, then freezes. She senses something, asks if he's the successor. Why does he carry Eru's presence? He repeats himself. He owns this sword. He inherited Eru's legacy, and she should kneel to her new master. She doesn't buy it, calls bullshit, and attacks. He sighs, realizing words won't work. The will of a demonic weapon always ends with it trying to claim the user's body. So he cuts the conversation short, flicks a finger, and slams her skull into the temple floor. He warns that if she doesn't submit now, things will get uglier. She growls, enraged, so he doubles down, pressing her even deeper into the ground to make his point. The pressure works. She breaks and finally calls him master. With that done, he figures it's time to head back. He's already been away too long. Karam practically hums with excitement, eager to breathe open air again after so long underground. She asks his name, curious. When he tells her, she raises an eyebrow. Out of everyone, why would Eru pick a kid she's never even heard of? He answers that he was chosen in a past life. He's already died once. As they walk, he passes Duran Dark, staring at it. He says it'll need to sit tight. Its real owner won't show up for another 2 decades. Karam still isn't convinced about the whole reincarnation thing, so he cuts the hilt off the sacred blade. She asks what the hell he's planning with that. He says it'll make the future a hell of a lot more fun. As the cart finally reaches its destination, our MC finally steps off the vehicle. Still can't believe the moment has actually come. The Duke is already there waiting, flanked by his knights. His father approaches and asks him straight if he's truly set on entering the battlefront, that if he wants to turn back now, he won't stop him. He gives a firm nod, saying he's confident in the path he's chosen. The Duke turns to Ilkin and commands him to activate the scroll. The knight tosses it out, magic flares, and a hellhound emerges from the summoned light. It's the trial meant to judge his worth. These creatures are low-tier demonic beasts straight out of Lamia Valley. He immediately shifts into stance, eyes locked on the enemy. From a distance, his father reminds him, his actions come with weight. If he wants this, he has to prove his strength and take responsibility by passing the test. A few days earlier, he had gone to Ulkin with a request for a duel. He needed something real. Training by swinging at air wasn't cutting it anymore. He wanted to know what a proper fight felt like. The knight told him he should be sparring with kids his own age, someone like Kranz. But every time he showed up, Kranz bolted. Still, Ulkin wasn't sold. He had doubts, but eventually agreed, on one condition. He would fight using only the sheath and stick strictly to defense. He agreed to the terms and added one more request. No matter what happened that day, the knight wasn't allowed to tell the Duke. Before he could say a word, our MC charged in with full force. The strike was blocked, but the weight behind it caught Ulkin off guard. He didn't expect a 10-year-old's blade to hit that hard. The kid circled relentlessly, movements fast enough to blur. Ulkin struggled just to track him. Then came a high slash from behind. The knight parried, but there was no room to breathe. Blow after blow came crashing down, every strike backed by full effort. He blocked them all barely. Eventually our MC stopped. As expected, he wasn't ready to win yet, but he thanked Ulkin for the fight and headed off. The knight stood there in shock. The fragile little noble he once knew had changed, grown way too fast. So now, watching him face the hellhound, he's convinced those beasts aren't going to be a problem. He watches it make its move. It charges. He dodges cleanly. Even with how far he's come, taking on a beast like this still pushes his limits, so ending it fast is the only way. The next time it lunges, he sidesteps and drives his blade across its throat, straight into its brain. It collapses immediately. As the blood pools out, he eyes it with a stray thought. How fun would it be to bottle up a few jars of this stuff? But people would probably lose it if they saw him doing that. His father claps, impressed. The test is over, he passed. The Duke tells him they'll meet again at the front lines. Karam murmurs from his sword, asking why he didn't use her to finish the beast. She needs blood if she's going to wake fully. He reassures her. Soon enough, he'll use her to his heart's content. At the battlefront, a massive ogre is tearing through the front ranks. The Duke gives a sharp command for the soldiers to fortify the defense line and eliminate the ogre immediately. A barrage of magical attacks is hurled at the creature. Binding spells tighten around it, locking its movement with arcane chains. While the beast is immobilized, he charges in with the main force to finish it off. From a distance, Cyan and his maid quietly observe. She breaks down in tears and asks why he insists on being in a place like this. He feels no fear. In fact, he admits the place almost feels nostalgic. The Duke approaches and asks how it feels to stand on the front lines for the first time. Cyan replies that he feels a little nervous. In response, his father reminds him that death can strike anywhere and any time, so staying sharp is non-negotiable. He nods, thanking him for the warning, but he's already aware that scenes like this are typical out here. There are usually 3 or 4 full-scale battles each day, and each one comes with a precise protocol designed to help them defeat the demons. With the advanced knights forming the backbone of the force, they handle any monsters trying to breach the line. When the battle concludes, he returns to his assigned tent, far in the back, deep within the safest sector. But the guards in this area follow orders too strictly, which means he won't be able to summon Karam. He has to wait until dinner to sneak off and train outside. He sees her trembling and asks what she's even doing. She repeats the Duke's warning. He tells her to pack her bags and go back to the castle. She yells that she can't leave him alone. He's hopeless without her there. If she disappeared out of nowhere, no one would care for him. She walks out of the tent, saying it's time to eat. He doesn't like how she acts with him, but lets it go. Later that night, once everyone is sleeping, he slides a plush doll under his blanket to cover for his absence. She asks if he's heading out to train. He nods, confirming it. She praises his commitment and says the Duke would be proud seeing him like this. He excuses himself and tells her to handle things and keep his absence quiet. Since it's night, the patrols tend to be tighter. Now is the best window while people are occupied. He cloaks himself in fog magic to slip through unnoticed. He recalls this place should still be crawling with monsters, the ideal ground for Karam. She smells the heavy scent of blood in the air and can barely contain her thrill. She begs him to let her cut down the beasts. He lunges into the Hound pack, ripping through with a sweeping fog assault, tearing them apart without slowing down. He harvests the blood from the slaughtered hounds and drinks it, recharging his mana and body and feeding Karam the power to grow stronger. She starts to get impatient, wondering how many more beasts they'll need to kill to reach their goal. He tells her they'll stay and train here all night. The area will keep drawing in more monsters. Elsewhere, across the front lines, a group of knights is escorting a royal convoy through the mountain paths. The maid seated in the cart tells the young girl inside that heading to the battlefield is too dangerous, and turning back would be safer. The child, with her gloomy look and smug tone, warns the woman to quit treating her like a kid before she pisses her off. She's supposedly the next heir to an empire. The maid apologizes for overstepping and brings up something she heard. The Duke of Vert has brought his youngest son to the front lines, and apparently, he's around the same age as her. The girl reacts with surprise at the Duke's decision. Why would he send someone that young into war? The maid clarifies that the Duke didn't make him go. He volunteered on his own. She repeats that he's probably her age and suggests they should get along if they ever cross paths. The girl flips into full tsundere mode and insists she's not interested in meeting him. The maid apologizes again, but the girl finally relaxes a bit and asks for his name. She tells her he's called Cyan Vert. The girl whispers it under her breath, clearly intrigued by whoever this bold young kid might be. The following day on the battlefield, Duke Vert leads his knights with precise coordination to subdue the monsters and wipe them out. After clearing the field and eliminating the threats, he approaches his son to ask how he feels after throwing himself into combat. Our MC replies that there's still a long path ahead, but he's eager to walk it. His father, impressed by his courage and resolve despite his age, smiles and says he's proud. He stares at him, surprised. It's the first time he's seen this kind of warmth. Before walking away, the Duke tells him they need a private talk inside his tent the next day. That night, with the camp deep in sleep, he makes his way to the rear zone of the front, like always, to train. But something's off. A death worm appears before him. These creatures usually spawn much deeper in the valley, so finding one here doesn't add up. In his current state, he's struggling to keep up, and Karam urges him to hand control over if he wants to survive. He knows her too well. What she really wants is full access to his body. She keeps pushing, telling him those weak swings won't do anything to a worm that can heal every wound in seconds. He has to one-shot it to end the fight for good. He hears her out. This fight could drag on forever if he keeps going solo. Even though he's consumed an absurd amount of demonic beast blood over the past month, he still feels miles from being truly strong. Letting her take over might be his only option. He steps forward, allowing it. With the 9th form of thick fog, demonic sword manifestation, she unleashes her full speed and strength, slicing the worm into pieces with almost no effort. Meanwhile, the Duke, accompanied by several of his royal trainees, passes through the area and spots the scattered corpses of hounds that were slain earlier. They immediately pick up on the dense manna lingering in the space, and it raises suspicion that a demon might be responsible. He orders the group to search the scene and get it secured quickly. This kind of thing can't be left unchecked, especially if there's demonic activity. As he studies the cuts and marks on the bodies, he notices they resemble his son's fighting style, but shakes the thought off. They sweep the area and end up finding a massive dead deathworm. A new question is raised. Who could have taken down that many beasts solo? He starts forming a theory. Some kind of secret organization might be behind these incidents. Back in his tent, our MC lies on his bed, thinking back on the last time he used the demonic sword manifestation. It's the technique that lets Karam fully take over and unleash her powers with no restraints. But the risk is steep. If he slips, she could remain in control permanently. That's why he can't use it on weaker monsters. The cost is too high. Fatigue sets in, his body sore and heavy. If he hadn't been drinking all that demon blood during his stay here, he'd have collapsed long ago. As he's trying to rest, she appears, telling him she finally understands something. On the inside, he's clearly mature, but his body's still stuck in a kid's form. His instincts, awareness, and fighting skills don't match his age at all. He moves through Lamia Valley like someone who's trained for decades, and the way he uses a sword only adds to that. It's almost like he's had 30 years of experience. And after hearing what he said before about dying, she's now fully convinced. He must have come back from the future. He gives her a tired look and tells her it should have been obvious from the start. She, being the loud beast she is, yells in frustration. But once she calms down, she begins digging into the details of his past death. It must have taken someone damn strong to kill him. Her theory? He was taken down by the wielder of the Duran Dark, either lost in a duel or was betrayed by someone close. She leans toward the second one. He asks how she's so sure. She explains that earlier, she saw him looking at that sword like it meant something to him, like it carried a past. And if that's the case, he's probably out for payback. Her tone shifts, and she growls that if he ever dies or gets defeated again, she'll devour him whole. He knocks her on the head and reminds her who's actually in control, but inside, he's quietly relieved. She hasn't changed a bit since the day they met in his previous life. Later that day, something feels off. People are acting jumpy for no clear reason. He heads out to figure out what's going on and runs into Emily. She tells him that news just came in. High-ranking monster corpses were discovered in the valley near the rear camp, the same area he's been staying in. He instantly realizes she's talking about the creatures he's been taking out every night. He asks if any other rumors have started spreading, but before she can say more, Yulkin interrupts, saying the Duke wants to speak with him. He knows he's screwed. He handled the corpses just last night. He walks into his father's tent and greets him like always. There's hesitation in his chest. If the topic comes up, he doesn't know what excuse to give. His father would immediately recognize his attack pattern. The Duke gestures for him to sit down, and without any build-up or delay, Father immediately addresses the reason Father summoned him. Father questions where he was last night. With no hesitation and a straight face, he lies, claiming he went to bed early. Suspicion flickers. Those markings they discovered yesterday bear an uncanny resemblance to the cuts left by his sword style. But after a moment, the Duke tempers his thoughts, pushing the suspicion aside. There's no way a kid could have taken down something as massive and dangerous as a deathworm. Father asks why he's being questioned. The tone shifts, more serious now, as Father brings up the monster corpses found near the camp. They need to look into it thoroughly, but the one theory Father keeps circling back to is that it might be tied to an old assassin organization known as the Mist. He plays dumb like he's never heard the name before, but the explanation continues. Supposedly, the Mist has existed for centuries. No one knows their motive or ultimate purpose, but they've left a trail of dead nobles in their wake. Their signature? Every kill site is shrouded in black fog. Then one day they just vanished. The last known sighting was 300 years ago. But the troubling part is, the monsters found yesterday were surrounded by that same black fog, the kind linked to Eru, the god of darkness. He's the source of the organization's power and the deity they worship. Based on that alone, the Duke assumes the Mist is behind the Deathworm's slaying and the other recent monster kills. Hearing this, our MC can't help but admire the sharp intuition. Even with the organization having disappeared for centuries, his father pinned the fog back to them instantly. The Duke admits they don't yet understand why the Mist has suddenly reappeared, but regardless, the Empire's higher-ups must be informed. He feels slightly relieved. His father didn't suspect a thing and believed the lie. From that perspective, it makes zero sense for someone his age to be tied to a legendary underground group. The topic shifts. Does he know about the guests arriving later today? He does. The Emperor is set to visit the front. The older man nods, then says he wants a small favor. Meanwhile, the Emperor reaches the battlefield, welcomed respectfully by the knights. The Duke bows on one knee to greet his sovereign, but the Emperor quickly dismounts and tells him there's no need for ceremony. They've been friends for years. He then spots our MC nearby and introduces him as the youngest member of the Vert family. The Emperor seems genuinely pleased to see someone so young surviving in the brutal environment of the front lines. He finds it astonishing. Now he understands why his father wanted him present for this visit. This was the first time he was being formally introduced as the Duke's son. Back in his past life, whenever the Emperor came by, he was always told to stay locked in his room. But now, he feels real happiness, finally being recognized publicly with pride. The Emperor then gestures to his young daughter, introducing her. The white-haired girl from earlier is none other than Arin Severs, the 5th princess of the Ushif Empire. He immediately identifies her. She's infamous as the tragic 5th princess. The favor mentioned earlier was about her. His father wanted him to ensure her safety. Since they're the same age, he could look after her, keep her company, and stay close. It would help to build a bond now, especially since they'll likely see each other again at the academy. He mentions it's a smart move to be on good terms with a member of the royal family, and hopes they'll get along. He isn't exactly eager to befriend her, but he gets where this is going. His father wants him to build the kind of bond he himself has with the Emperor. Still, that's just not who he is. There's no chance they'd ever actually be friends. For now, though, he has to go along with it. He ends up walking beside her like he was told. She pauses by the river, eyeing it curiously, and asks why the water is red. He tells her it's called the Blood River. Name says it all. When demons get fatally wounded or lose their ability to fight, they instinctively crawl to this river. Eventually, the bodies rot, and the fluids run into the water, staining it red. The idea of a river full of corpse runoff makes her sick. She then asks where exactly the river flows. He enjoys the chance to spook her, saying it heads straight to the demon realm, and if she swims far enough, she might bump into the Demon King. Their eyes drift to the sky, where a faint yellow glow appears on the horizon. He explains the light means demonic beasts are closing in. She panics, asking why demons would dare come this close to the camp. Meanwhile, up at the front lines, the Duke starts organizing for battle. He instructs the knights to focus on guarding the Emperor, then tells the rest of the army to shift west with him. The Emperor interrupts, declaring he won't sit back and let others shield him. He hasn't tasted real combat in ages and is itching to dive into the action. The Duke has no choice but to comply. They announce the Emperor is joining the charge, while the rest of the knights handle the incoming demons. The Duke then calls out for his son to join the others. He doesn't hesitate and moves to follow orders, but before he can leave, Arin stops him and asks if he's really capable of fighting demons alone. He gives a nod, but she cuts him off, insisting she wants to come too. If he can go, then so can she. They're the same age. He brushes her off, telling her people die in this. Being the stubborn, loud kid she is, she yells that she still wants to go. He ignores her and calls for Ulkin, assigning him to keep her safe and take her somewhere far from the fight. Furious, she starts yelling insults at them for treating her that way. He walks up to her with that cold stare of his and tells her straight, if she keeps throwing herself into things like this, knights will die. Maybe dozens, maybe hundreds. Is she ready to bear the weight of that? Her eyes well up. That hit too deep. He turns and starts to walk away. Before leaving, he tells her to pack up and go home if she's just going to cry like a child. Back in the camp, high-level demonic beasts begin their attack. The Duke commands the army to prep for battle and wipe out every last one. The soldiers respond with fire and charge straight for the demonic snail. The ruler of Ushif, Emperor Dionys Varus, has taken 2 wives throughout his reign. The first, Diana Kozel, passed away years ago. The second, Cassandra Nepellis, currently serves as a royal judge within the Empire's court. Diana bore him 2 daughters, the Empire's first and second princess. Cassandra, on the other hand, gave birth to the 3rd and 4th princes. But then came Arin, the 5th princess, born not of nobility, but from a commoner woman. A child born out of wedlock, her existence has been treated like a blemish, ostracized and labeled as something unnatural, unworthy of royalty. Still, despite the constant humiliation and social scorn, she never let their judgment define her. She carried herself with the grace and presence expected of any princess, and she dedicated herself with intensity to her academic path. Even so, things eventually spiraled. She was later accused of turning her back on the empire and banished from the royal bloodline. No one knows for sure what became of her, but rumors suggest she caught some incurable illness and died alone on a remote island. That was enough to earn her the nickname, the Tragic Princess. He, for one, believes things could have turned out differently. Always thought she might have stood a chance at a decent life, if only she weren't so caught up in dreams and blind ambition. She drew too much attention. Karam constantly teases him, claiming her story practically mirrors his. Meanwhile, far across the war zone, the Emperor and the Duke have been making significant progress wiping out the monster swarms. Dion channels raw lightning through his body, slicing through the stragglers like they're nothing. He might hold the throne, but he's also earned a reputation as a terrifyingly skilled magic wielder. Creatures like these barely slow him down. Once the area is cleared, the 2 duck inside the command tent to rest. The Emperor pours himself a drink and offers one too, just to reminisce about the old days. The offer is declined. There's no room for Buzz's judgment on the front, so he shrugs and drinks solo. As the quiet stretches between them, he casually brings up a troubling matter. Several nobles have been killed lately, and word is spreading fast, unsettling both citizens and soldiers. The Duke immediately asks whether there's any link between the deaths. patterns, strange signs. Diani tells him the common thread is corruption. Every noble taken out so far had a dirty record, and more importantly, every corpse showed signs of black fog residue. That makes his companion pause. He says he noticed the same kind of fog behind the camp just yesterday, which leads him to suspect that the black fog users have resurfaced. The Emperor agrees. It's definitely something they'll have to look into further. Then the topic shifts. He's heard whispers that Aaron is being blamed for the recent chaos, and it's starting to weigh on him. He's been trying to keep things from boiling over, but some factions are clearly looking to use the situation against her. He turns to the Duke, face open and serious, and asks for one thing. If something happens, if he dies first, he wants his old friend to watch over her in his place. The promise is made without hesitation. The Duke swears on his life to protect her, no matter what. And with that, the conversation draws to a close. Back in another tent, he's catching Emily up on everything that went down while she was away. She seems let down that he barely spent time around the princess. He tells her not to expect too much. She laughs, half serious, and throws out that he'll never get married at this rate. He brushes it off and steps out to return to his usual training. But outside, he runs straight into Aaron, standing there soaked from the downpour. She walks into the tent beside him and asks where he's heading next. Before he can answer, she tells him to stay for a moment. There's something she wants to talk about. She asks how long he's been stuck out here. He replies, nearly a month now. Not wasting time, he pushes the real question. Why did she come all the way here just to find him? But whatever she wants to say, she holds back. Emily's intense, almost unhinged gaze behind them makes her too uncomfortable to speak freely. He tells her to give them some space so they can talk privately, but she replies with a sarcastic grin, joking that they should all just have fun together. Once she's out of the way, Aaron begins by apologizing, admitting she hasn't been behaving like she should, hasn't lived up to what's expected of her. He accepts it without hesitation and admits he might have gone too hard on her earlier. Her voice lowers, weighed down by emotion. She says he's well liked by everyone, that he carries himself with more maturity than she does. He instantly notices the shift in her demeanor. She brings up the fact that he's probably heading back to the academy soon, but he stops her before she can finish. He already knows where she's going with this. She wants to ask if they can be friends once they're there, but he cuts it off. Looking her straight in the eye, he tells her if she came here looking for friendship, she's wasting her time and should walk away. Trying to hold it together, she says she wasn't looking for that, just hoping to be on good terms, and says he's being unnecessarily cruel. With tears starting to fall, she says he probably sees her like everyone else does, a fake, undeserving princess. She takes a breath, pulls herself together, and apologizes for showing up at all, says she overestimated him and walked away with nothing. Then she mutters that he's nothing like his brother, Ashel. That name hits hard. He grabs her arm without thinking, demanding to know how she even knows him. She tells him she ran into Ashel during a walk near the Royal Academy. He told her not to worry about other people's opinions, only to focus on her goals and what she wants. That makes him freeze. It's clear now that his brother had started manipulating her from the very first moment they met, already laying down the trap. He tries to warn her, but before he can get anything out, a deep rumbling shakes the tent. Emily rushes in, panic written across her face, yelling for them to get out immediately. But they're too late. An orc crashes through the top of the tent, smashing into the ground and launching her through the air like a broken doll. From outside, the nearby knights spot the torn-up tent and realize he's still inside. Emily, sprawled in the dirt, breaks into sobs, convinced he's just been killed under the wreckage. Word of the attack reaches the Emperor and the Duke immediately. Both of their children are trapped inside the wreckage of a tent, torn apart by a high-ranking demonic beast. Without pausing, Diani commands the entire military force to head straight to the scene and secure his daughter's life. Meanwhile, panic floods his mind. He can't wrap his head around why powerful monsters keep showing up this far behind enemy lines. They're supposed to stay deep within the valley. Something feels seriously wrong, and he's starting to suspect he might be the reason behind it. Tears well in her eyes when she sees him alive, after genuinely believing the orc had killed him. But he managed to get out before the structure collapsed. There's no way he'd let an orc finish him off when he's slain demon kings in a past life. Beside him, she asks if the knights stationed at the camp are all right. Then she breaks down, overcome with guilt for coming here at all, knowing they would have followed her straight into danger. The knights approach and reassure her that protecting her is their sworn duty, and they're ready to die if that's what it takes. But the words are cut short when the orc storms back into the scene, grabbing one of them, crushing his body in a single grip, and hurling him across the field like nothing. Without hesitation, he steps in front of her, standing between her and any incoming strike. The orc immediately locks eyes on him, confirming the suspicion. These advanced monsters are being drawn specifically to him. He yells for the others to fall back and get her to safety while he holds the beast's attention. Emily grabs the princess and bolts, leaving him to face the threat alone. But his strikes barely scratch the creature. It's like the blows aren't landing at all. Confused and frustrated, he starts wondering what the hell is going on. Why are they so fixated on him? That's when Karam appears, casually explaining that all the demonic blood he's been drinking to get stronger has left him reeking of power, attracting elite monsters like a beacon. Furious, he snaps, demanding to know why she didn't say anything sooner if she knew this from the start. She just grins wickedly and says she's only here for his body anyway. He doesn't hesitate, grabs her and transforms her into his weapon. With her as his blade, he launches into the orc, slicing through limbs like butter and putting it down without breaking a sweat. But then he spots something worse. Dozens more high-level beasts still on the move. She lights up with excitement, thrilled by the prospect of such a massive feast. The mood shifts when they come face to face with the devil dragon. He tells her to get ready to tear into it, activating his demonic manifestation to wipe out everything standing in their way. Elsewhere on the battlefield, the Duke has just taken out the final remaining monster in his area. Dione turns, asking if there's any word on the kids. The reply is grim. There wasn't a single sign of them near the collapsed tent. The Emperor says he must be panicking over his son, but the Duke answers with a cold expression. Any member of the Vert family should know how to survive something like this. What matters now is the princess's safety. As they speak, the knights arrive, successfully bringing her back to her father. She rushes into his arms, breathless, pleading with him to save our MC before it's too late. Meanwhile, the Duke walks up to the maid and asks if she's his personal attendant. When she nods, he asks what happened. With her voice shaking, she explains that he told them to run while he stayed behind to hold off the monsters. One of the knights offers to go retrieve him if given the order, but the Duke takes a moment, then declines. Their focus has to remain on the current wave. If these creatures break through the camps, nothing will stop them from reaching the Empire itself. They have to return to formation before more lives are lost. When someone asks what's going to happen to him, the answer is calm and final. Our MC has already done his part. He protected the princess. That's what being a Vert means. She continues to cry, still blaming herself for everything unraveling around them. But then a sound cuts through the noise, a voice she instantly recognizes. She looks up, eyes wide, as he appears overhead clutching the reins of a flying dragon, shouting desperately for someone to help. Dragons are majestic beings deeply connected to the Creator, revered for their rarity and dignity. Creatures as weak and limited as humans have no business challenging one. So for him, even laying eyes on a dragon in the flesh feels like a once-in-a-lifetime honor. Unfortunately, the one he's latched onto ends up soaring directly above a crowd of people who know exactly who he is. The worst part, he can't afford to be seen in the middle of a fight. But there he is, plain as day, riding a dragon like some reckless idiot. Eyes lock onto him immediately. The Emperor watches with intrigue and asks the Duke if he's planning to save his own son. The Duke, completely unfazed, just sits there, relaxed and detached, observing how our MC handles the mess he's gotten himself into. Meanwhile, he's barely hanging on, regretting everything. He curses himself for being greedy enough to even think about tasting dragon blood in the first place. Before all this chaos began, back when he was still holding off the army of monsters, he had slashed through them quickly, not even sparing a thought, until all that remained was the dragon. Seeing it up close had him practically vibrating with excitement, staring at the mythical beast with wide, awe-filled eyes. But the moment didn't last. It went aggressive fast, blasting a column of fire his way. He dodged and scrambled for the high ground, launching a flurry of attacks in return, but each strike only pissed it off more. Then came the tail swipe, hard and fast, smacking him through the air like a rag doll. Before it could follow up, he switched to martial arts, pounding it with heavy, rapid blows across its body. Still, it wasn't enough to bring the beast down. As he prepped for his next move, something unexpected happened. It stopped. Then it simply turned and flew away. But of course, being the impulsive little gremlin he is, he leapt after it without thinking, grabbing onto its side like a maniac just to steal a taste of its blood. That's how he ended up stuck, clinging to its back, powerless and exposed. She demands to know why he hasn't used her to fight back. At this rate, he's going to get himself killed. He screams back that if anyone sees him use his powers now, he'll be fried alive. He can't let that secret get out. While they're still arguing, they spot the Duke beginning to cast a massive, high-level magic spell, an 8-star incantation. Panic hits immediately. That serious look on his father's face means only one thing. He's about to target the dragon, even knowing his son is on it. The spell launches. Blades of magic shoot into the air, slicing through flesh with terrifying force. He leaps off just in time, trying to dodge the raining blades mid-air. As he falls, she yells for him to use his powers to escape, to fly out before it's too late, but he still can't risk being seen. Desperate, he scans the area and spots a river of blood not too far off. As a last-ditch effort, he shifts his trajectory and aims for it, hoping it'll cushion the fall. Somewhere else in the valley, a pair of demons had been watching the commotion. One, the older of the two, remarks that it must have been a young dragon getting itself into trouble. The white-haired one next to him counters, saying something incredibly powerful must have scared it off. Only a high-level beast could do that. But the elder casually corrects him. That section of the valley is populated solely by humans. Still, if curiosity's got him, he's free to check it out for himself. Just try not to massacre everything in sight. The younger nods, spreading his wings and flying toward the chaos. Back near the river, he somehow survives the fall. Crawling out of the bloody water,